on this computer. I'm going to do that. All right, we did a quick review of the homework assignment. I think I've covered most of this already, but here's the solution. It's been posted. And once again, for the midterm, I'm going to probably give you a big dictionary from the output from a wearable device and say, you parse through this, collect the data for one type of key in the dictionary, process that data, and then do some simple analysis and then output the data. Something like that would be on the midterm. I repeated that twice for the recording, okay? Let's see what I had on my other topics for today. Oh yeah, remember to record. Hack some code every day. This was pretty straightforward. We covered that. Oh, I want to cover this thing called Lambda and map functions. You see them a lot. I don't use them a lot. I kind of don't. I think they're so abstracted sometimes that they're hard to understand, but you see them in other people's code. It's a really concise way to write code. So I'll cover that a little bit. And then we'll review some hints for how to solve the problem for your Monday homework. Build a program to read and analyze data assignments. I'll give you an overview for that. So that's what I have planned, okay? All right, let's do a few things here. Back to Spider. Okay, let's see what else do I have. Here's my Lambda and map functions example. So let me describe this code to you. Can you guys see my Spider environment? Just making sure. Got a thumbs up. Thank you very much, Hope. Thank you for participating today. Appreciate it. All right, so this is a pretty easy function, like the easiest function you can think of, my foo. Put in a value, there's x plus x, and it's returned. So out one, if I do this, ought to be 4, correct? Now, here's how a lambda works, is a lambda, which is a built-in function, okay? I have a parameter called x, and then it applies this x plus 1. So if I want to implement this function, this lambda function, I can do that, and it will output 2 plus 1, which is 3, okay? So x is 2. So it's so abstracted, I think it's a little bit confusing the first time you look at it. But you probably should understand how a lambda function works because a lot of people use them in Python, okay? All right, so the next thing we got there is even a little bit further of abstraction, is I could take in this and add a parameter to and pass it in, and then let's evaluate what out 2 would be. In this case would be 4, so it does 2 plus 2. So here's just another way to write the lambda function, okay? So this creates the object, and then you pass the 2 into the object is the way to think about it. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to point out here is something that could maybe a little bit more complicated. Let's do this. Lambda. Now I can have multiple variables, x, y, and z. Oh, and x, y, and z could even be list. And so it's an iterable. You should know what an iterable is. You should know what that means. And it's going to iterate through each of these elements. So it's going to take x to the z power plus y squared. So we could calculate the first one. So x, y, and z, x is 1, y is 2, z is 3. So x to the z power, so that's 1 to the third power 1 plus 2, so something like 5 maybe. Let's see. Oh, got it wrong. So somebody can correct me on that. Oh, it's 2 to squared, which is 4. And then x function is x to the z power. And then we listed out 8, 2, 18, and 8 and 18. Okay. So there's a little bit more complicated function for you to look at. And then let's see, there was one other thing that I wanted to show. So if I wanted to take and use the map function, and let's create another list here called X. And then I could basically, for X, I can pass into my foo each one of the elements of X. And then notice I use this thing called list. So Z becomes an object, and then list says list out the elements of Z. So let's do that. 2, 4, 6. And my foo basically is 2, 1 plus 1. Okay, 2 plus 2, and then 3 plus 3. All right. Okay, so lambda and map functions. There you go. Okay, the next thing I wanted to cover was a couple of concepts that you will need to know for the homework. One concept is this ability to stack data frames. So we've talked about our data in the files called data_7.csv. And if I wanted to read those in and make them into one large data frame, I could read them in one at a time. But we have 163 of them. So your project for Monday is to read in from, I think, file 7 to 12, but it would work for 5 to 163 or whatever we selected, right? So there is this function called concat. And notice that we're passing in a list, right? Got a list here, and then something called axis 0. Now, axis 0, I remember this because row is dimension 0, row, R-O-W, O is in the row direction, and then 1 is in the column direction. So, so it does a vertical stack. If I take, really slice, you can think of this as taking a subset of the data frame because we're using iloc, and loc would return all of the rows, but iloc returns a subset of the data frame, right? And that is the length of data 1 minus 5 to the length of data 1 plus 5, okay, to the end. And this is kind of tricky is here too. I'm going to drop and reset the index because every time that I add one of these, a file to the end, it starts the index over again. So I'm going to drop it and then reset the index value. So that's what this function does. Drop true, in place true, and you can look up what that operation does, that method does on the object vertical stack here. Okay, so that's kind of a lot to keep in your head, but really here's the second trick that you have to know. And this is going to be a little interactive for you guys. I'm going to ask you guys to think about how, if I gave you the prefix, which is the file path, and then I gave you the suffix, but I wanted to change the string number, how could I do that in a loop? Can you write that code out and submit it in the chat? It's 3 lines of code. And to make it easy for you, just assume that we're going to do the start file is going to be 5 and the end file is going to be 10. And if I just wanted to let's see, create a string that is my path name. Yes, for n in range to 5 to 11 gets us from 5 to 10. Now, what sits inside of the loop to be the next step to create the proper path length? Can anybody do that for me? So let me just go ahead and I'll type this in for you. That's what was in the chat. I've abstracted it, right? So one of my rules is for documentation is no hard-coded numbers, right? So I would prefer, in fact, you'll get counted off for this, is if you hard-coded 5 and 10 here, I would rather you make it a reusable program and set up the name, the start file number, and the end file number so it's well documented. If you looked at this a year ago, a year from now, you'd go, well, what isn't 5 and 10? So this is a better way to do it. All right, so what's the code that goes inside of the for loop to create the file path? And the file path is going to look something like this, 7.csv, right? So what I'm asking is, how do you convert this integer that's returned for file num into a string and then concatenate all of the pieces of the string together to make the file path? Anybody have an idea how to do that? Kind of hard to put in chat. I'll give you a break today. So if I was to do this, let's say file path is the new variable name. There you go. Somebody did it. Okay, file name. Good attempt there, Victoria. Awesome. And then since I gave you the prefix up above, you would say prefix. That's not changing on each iteration of the loop, right? And then I would say plus, and I got to convert it to a string. You got that part right. Thank you, Victoria. And my name is file num. And if I could print it right today or type right today, that'd be good. Now I need to remember the suffix, right? Are you guys following that? That's pretty straightforward. And let's just print the file path now and just see what that turns out. Let's hope that that code is right. And then if we go to the console, it prints it out. Oh, looks like I got a little bit of a problem here. 10.cds. Oh, I forgot to move this part right there. There we go. A little bit of hacking. All right, so that looks appropriate, right? So that uses the file path. Now you have to use that information plus this information, right? I want to read, and then I want to concatenate vertically and make one giant data frame. That's the goal of your Monday homework assignment. Now you have to do all this in a function, and you have to do doc strings to document and your parameters in your function to document the function. So I have created a rubric for you guys and posted it on the homework assignment. And just like last time, you'll do a peer review so you can see other people's code. So I just added this today, this rubric. I don't think anybody had finished the homework yet, but it's all spelled out. And I would like you to answer these two questions. What did you like or what did you learn from your peers program? What could they improve upon? So give them some feedback, write that there, and then grade them on this rubric. Now notice here, I just kind of showed you how I would like this structured. The function should have this structure, data equal read data file. So read underscore data underscore files is the function name, file prefix, start file, and end file num. And I would like you to document that function. And then the output is going to be this one giant data frame, and you will perform some analysis on it. I want you to calculate the mean of the accelerometer X column for all of the data files. And I can't remember, I think I only said 7 through 12 data files, something like that. Now, I should be able to input 7 through 30, 7 through 12, 7 through 163, and so forth, because it's a function, right? And you will use this function in your project. So you're going to be building something that you will reuse. Okay. All right, I'm going to stop there and see if anybody's got any questions. I kind of had a lot of coffee this morning, so I was going pretty fast. So if you got any questions, let's talk. All right. I'm going to let you guys get on with your weekend if you don't have any questions. There's a lot of videos up there to watch. I think you could learn, you could go to W3 Schools and learn about Lambda and maps. Geek for Geeks is also another location you can go to. Might be a little something on midterm about Lambda functions.
I was having trouble reading in my data for this assignment.
All right, you want to look at your code? Can we show your code? You up for that, Hope?
Yeah.
Let's take a look. I'm going to stop sharing. Just 1 second. I'm getting to it. All yours.
Okay, I'm gonna comment out all the stuff that I wrote real quick so there's no errors.
Hey, this is a working session. You can show your code. No worries. I'm so happy you're working ahead. Good for you. You're going to be doing well, really good. Okay. Okay, I see an error in line 13, syntax error. You don't have
Yeah,
it.
this was from what we were doing just now in the office hours.
Okay.
But my cursor is like white, so I'm trying to comment it out, but
Oh, I see what you're saying. You have your I think you have what is it? One of the keys will insert. You touched your insert key and you just need to touch it again so it stops inserting. Try that. Inserts usually next to your backspace. It's real easy to touch the insert and it changes how your cursor works when you insert a key, insert a value. Does that make any sense to you?
yeah, I think, see, it's often I go down here and then I'll click back here and then it turns back on.
So try to put a V in there.
And try to put a what?
A V as in vertical. So it's inserting. It's replacing and inserting. So can you tap you have an insert key, tap the insert key one more time on your keyboard.
I'm trying to find it, sorry.
I know, I'm the same way. I had to look.
Anyway, I can't find it.
You'll let's see. I don't know how to help you besides that's how
It's done it before and I fixed it, but I didn't. This was like a year ago when I was in
what I would do
engineering.
I would find the name of my keyboard and search Google and say how to toggle the insert switch on the Logitech keyboard.
Okay.
And see if that finds it. That's what's going on. All right, I'm troubleshooting keyboards today. Sometimes that happens in this class. No worries. All right, Victoria, any questions?
Yeah, I did have a question, and I think I had a similar issue as Hope.
Okay.
So I was trying, oh yeah, I can share. So I was trying to read in the data, and it gives me this Erno message, and I unzipped the files. So that's like, but I don't know if you can see my.
Yeah, I think you don't. You have the folder up there, but not the specific data file to read in line 9. So take me to that folder, exactly to the folder.
I have to share like whole screen. There we go. Okay.
Give that.
Can you see the file?
Yeah. Okay. Now, yeah, there you go. So put your cursor up there next to the folder, up one, right? Yeah, to the right a little bit. Click in that area. click, copy, Control C. So that is exactly what the name of the folder. Okay, so you could copy that and put that into your parentheses up there. Okay, you with me?
Yes.
Do that. All right, now put another backslash. Yeah. I don't even think you have to do that anymore. This version of Python, I don't think you even have to do that. But I like the way you're thinking. Now go back to your folder. And yeah, click on data_7. The name of it. The name in the folder right down below, like you're going to rename it, right?
Oh, like here?
Yeah. Copy that. Control C. Okay, and then go up into Python. Put a backslash there. Data and then Control V. .csv. There you go. Now that ensures sometimes you have these long paths like this, and you make a typo in the path and it's wrong. So you can remove your double backslashes. Let's try that real quick. Are you on? You're on Windows, right?
Yes.
Let's try this. There you go. Invalid argument. ED read, comma separated values. Oh, you still have an escape key.
Oh.
Right after the C colon.
Yes, I have an escape one.
Okay, remove that second backslash. Where it says C colon. Just remove it. Let's try that. Unicode codec can't decode. All right, well, maybe your version requires the double backslash. So
for all of them?
Yeah, put all, it's called an escape and then a back. I guess it's a forward slash. It's a forward slash. The way I remember it, by the way, is a slash the other direction means divide. So we don't want the divide symbol, we want the forward slash.
So this is right?
Yes, ma'am.
Ah, awesome.
Got it. Now,
No error.
yeah, I think you could use the forward slash like you had before, and then there is a string command called R. I forgot what R stands for, but you put R in front of the parentheses and you don't have to put the double forward slash in there.
Okay.
So there's a lot of ways to do this file path, the syntax for it. So what I do is I find one that's real easy to remember because I don't want to have to look it up every time, and I just use that one every time. That's
okay.
Okay.
And then so earlier we put this in here to give it an even like a better direction of where the data is.
Well, what you want to do is you want to read in 163 files, right? So you could copy that and change that to 8.csv and 9 and, do that 163 times, or you could use a for loop.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
But so will I be able to use a for loop with this, with like line 9 of the code? Or will I have to manipulate it again?
You'll have to do the string manipulation to make the file path.
Okay.
And pass that in as your variable in the pd.read_csv function. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. So I could keep 7 here, but then in the function, just separate it from there.
Yeah. Let me go back to my code, and maybe I was too subtle on it. All right, let's see. I guess I'm not sharing yet, am I? Going to share. So really, this file path is exactly what you just did there. What I did is automate it, right? So if I run this, I can get exactly what you want over and over again from file 5 to the end file. I want to go to 163, we could do that, right? Now I have a little function that reads everything in. If I put this inside of a function. Are you following? Because the next thing we want to do is do this right here. Then, but I have file path right here. Now the trick is you want to make a vertical stack. So that's just one of the files. I want to stack it to the last file. So how do I do that? That's the programming assignment for Monday. I'll let you think about that.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have data defined here, so it's going to give me a little error there. There you go.
Okay, but I can leave the original read-in as 7, right? And then just do the manipulation with it so it can go through all of them.
Okay, and then the other part of the homework was to make a function with this prototype. So I want you to make a function that looks like this. You put the doc string here. All right, put the doc string here. And then write your code here. And it might look something like this, right? You guys just ask me. I'll just sometimes do your homework. I shouldn't be doing that. All right, so inside of this function, you're gonna do this, you're gonna make your doc string, and then you're gonna write a little code that stacks these things. I only have one, so you gotta figure out how to, stack it to the last one that I read. And then return data, which is this guy, okay? And then process that large data frame. I hope that makes sense.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Alyssa, any questions today?
No.
Okay. Awesome. You guys have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Hey, Jeff, you have time to stick around? Professor Reynolds?
Sure.
How are things going for you?
Good. Should we not record?
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, let me see. Stop recording.